willingness of all Americans, men and women, young and old, to serve in all parts of the world, to serve at little pay, to do jobs that most of them have never done before, is one of the most encouraging manifestations of the American spirit that this country has seen in many years. The Peace Corps gives us a chance to show a side of our country which is too often submerged. Our desire to live in peace, our desire to be of help. I hope in the coming months and years that many of you will follow the example of those who've gone before. They, I think, are serving this country well. And in a very real sense, they are serving a larger cause, the cause of freedom and the cause of a peaceful world. They are demonstrating their interest in people who may live on the other side of the globe, who may live in poverty and misery, but who, because of the presence of the Peace Corps, live in hope. I hope this spirit will grow, and that hundreds of others of young Americans and older Americans will go overseas to show our best side, to show how much we desire to live at peace. There can be no greater service to our country and no source of pride more real than to be a member of the Peace Corps of the United States. I hope that you will join.
This is entitled Annie's Rainy Season Number 4. Dear Mr. Kennedy, may I ask, is Peace Corps one more litany, conquest, global manifest destiny, siphoned from the idealism of people like you and like me? When did Peace Corps stop becoming our Corps and transform into my, his, her, and their Corps? Peace Corps, Anti-Communism Corps, Imperial Neocolonialism Corps, the Ugly American Corps. The ignored lessons of Western aid and development Corps, an affront to the poor Corps. The need for the United States to save humanity Corps. The I've done some good, but I mostly learned Corps. The unskilled recent liberal arts graduate Corps. The swing years before graduate school Corps. The Cuerpo de Paz, or Cuerpo de Paseo. The blonde dropped into the Andes mountains to talk about the environment when people didn't have potable water Corps. The assimilate to manipulate Corps. The why the fuck am I here Corps. The young expert American unwittingly expanding oppression Corps. The waste of taxpayer money that attempts to enact change through peace Corps. The demonstration of the United States' ability to have morality Corps. The Americans that grow more affluent and lose their human ability to interact, to empathize, and to identify with the less privileged Corps. The diminished its initial creation Corps, so that our country doesn't know how to interact with another nation Corps. It's a justified, expensive, studied abroad Corps, where you can all fulfill your independent academic internship in poverty Corps, just so you can see how people can die for want of so little Corps. If the before is the same as the after Corps, then I ask you all, what is the point of Peace Corps? So don't let this Corps become a permanent Corps. You have to admit it just a little bit, that if we got together and could commit to this Corps, that the way America is portrayed in the global community would instead galvanize unity. If altruistic we seek to be, or an effective change in our global community, we shouldn't understand that we all understand the bonds of mass misery. Corps. I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Peru. We're now known as Return Peace Corps volunteers. And this was me with one of my socios, as it was. But what I want to directly grab your attention to, Peace Corps mission, you are branded with this information when you put in your application, when you take the oath, when you get down into country, and before you move to site. You know these 3 goals, inside, backwards. It's probably tattooed on my body somewhere. But the most important one is the need for trained men and women. So Peace Corps picked me as a trained woman in a specialty in environmental science. And I went down to assess a problem project in a cuenca, which is a water resource in Peru. I was one of the first female volunteers to be sent to an area that hadn't been developed by Peace Corps, which is unusual for 2014 Peace Corps, not necessarily 1960s Peace Corps, but very unusual. And I was one of 6 that had never really, the population had never really seen white people before, and it certainly had never seen the blonde unicorn before. So the last 2, I think, are probably the most important goals of Peace Corps that are the most widely understood and misused, and will be the point of my conversation today. So promote a better understanding of Americans on the part of people served. So let that sink in. What might that mean? Okay, well, we're all diplomatics, right? Like, we're supposed to go and understand that not everyone's like us, but we're all humans on a very basic level. Yes. So this is me. I feel like a rock star in that picture because I feel like these girls really liked me. Again, whether or not because of the blonde unicorn hair or because they felt safe with me, which is very difficult as a foreigner in a land that you don't belong to. You've probably seen this motto before because it is the dogma of Peace Corps, that it will be the toughest job you'll ever love. But you have to ask yourself, if you are an undergraduate, as I was, 22 years old, idealistic going into the Peace Corps, why would that be of a particular meaning to you? And I can tell you as an educated grad student afterwards in some of the levels of political science that this has a completely different meaning to me now than when I went into the Peace Corps. I kind of hate this, but I think it's very pertinent to bring up here because this really I puts into a focal point all of the perceptions that Americans have of Peace Corps, and a little bit abroad. I mean, it was considered Hannah Montana when I was in Peace Corps. Also Shakira, definitely sometimes Pamela Anderson, which I don't understand why, but I got all of these things as a volunteer. I also got bruja, which means witch. So you can understand that there's a level of uncertainty which comes with being the only person in an area where no one looks, talks, acts, or speaks like you. So I want to bring over the attention to my 3 favorite infographics on this slide. And this is the most patriotic thing I think you can understand what the government influence of Peace Corps might be. Soft imperialism. I will be explaining that more later, but she looks very proud. She's doing what the government wants her to do. This is also another very scary reality. This is something that is what we have to deal with as volunteers because during the 1960s, the Kennedy administration implemented Peace Corps not because they had a holistic need to address human aid across the world, but because communism existed. And what better way to finance the campaign against communism instead of with weapons and guns, but to send people down that look like me with a smile. Very disarming and very clever. This picture is what I think people idealize either with the Peace Corps or when they're making fun of it, but I can assure you, given with the men and women that I served with, this is absolutely not what happens. I've taken a bucket bath, but we are this is, I think, poking fun at what Peace Corps volunteers do because people have a misconception of how easy or how difficult it is to implement good work and in collaboration with people who, again, don't talk, speak, and act like you. And then I tell myself when I was by myself in the rainy season, listening to the rain that would continue for 48 hours, 64, all on end, 6 months during the Peace Corps. These are the things and the moments that really push you through, so you have to pretend you're Bono, essentially. But even still, these perceptions are very realistic, and there's all things that we have to deal with as Peace Corps volunteers. So my last minute and a half, I'm going to give you my perception of what soft imperialism is. So it's this specific idea that the United States sent people and volunteers down to countries, specifically Africa, to help deter the spread of communism. Ghana was one of the first countries that Peace Corps went to in 1961, and there's a very real reason for that. So my question's up here. Are we unknowing extensions of imperialistic and capitalist ideology? I would definitely have said no when I went down there, but again, coming back, I have a very different ramification for it. The second one, who assimilates who? Keep in mind that if you are the donor country, you are the aid-giving country, and you're being sent down even if a country wants you, what do you think the mentality would be of an expert coming to your community to help you gain a better quality of life or to help you understand what Western idealism is? So the ethical implications of a soft power means that we should re-examine the role of Peace Corps. It has served as a diplomatic tool to promote Western ideals while promoting cultural awareness and exchange. But Peace Corps was established underneath the Cold War to exert soft core imperialism upon the world. So, if it was in mind to kind of combat the negative impressions that Americans had abroad, I ask you now, is Peace Corps still relevant? Thank you.